what you're describing is
I plead
Matt.
with it.
Matt, what you're describing is kind of like taking the argument and then kind of like rearranging and playing with the premises and conclusion, maybe doing a little mixing and matching, right?
Well, I wouldn't really mix them. I would just add to the ending.
Oh, yeah. This
I
what
would
you're
turn
talking
the
about with like
conclusion
adding
into a
and kind of
premise and then have another conclusion.
reorienting. That's called
To get
salad
a- to
tossing.
get
You're
GG out
tossing
of
around the premises of the salad. That's
epistemic
salad tossing.
nihilism.
But
Would
wait,
be my
so
attempt.
Except Matt,
Matt,
the
you-
new
Matt, you
conclusion is a contradiction to one of the premises,
Yeah.
right? You
But-
can't have a contradictory conclusion.
But Matt said that he's not sure
I
what
don't
we
think
mean
it
by
would be a
sound, so we need to clarify.
Let's just ask them. Let's just give an example. Let's say we have an argument, and one of the premises is Jesus Christ is not Lord, right? Is it possible to have a sound
I would
argument?
reject that.
Okay, hold on. Is it possible to have an argument with the conclusion Jesus Christ is Lord?
No.
Okay, all right, well, that's good. There we go. We're getting somewhere.
But
If your argument is sound,
it's-
how come I can't hear it?
But
Oh my
but it's
God.
still unfair because Matt said he doesn't know what we mean by sound. So we need to explain
Yeah,
that.
what I'm saying is, let me just say it this way. Gigi's argument shows that the atheist has to be committed to epistemic nihilism.
That's not what the argument shows at all. But
It has nothing to do with atheism.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
there's nothing to
just
do with
an
Look,
argument
you
for nihilism.
believe, right? You believe in an external world, and it talks about justification, right? I just
But we
so bizarre to me.
it what it means for an argument to be valid, Matt, is just that if the premises are true, then the conclusion necessarily follows. That you can't get away from like the conclusion there. That's all it means if it's valid, right? So if P,
Yeah.
then Q, and you have a P, therefore you also have a Q. You can't get away from that, like however many twists and turns you do.
Well, I think you actually can.
How exactly? If you
turn the
have
conclusion into a premise as opposed to a
no,
conclusion.
wait.
And
that's
then
what it. So okay,
add
like,
another premise
regardless of whether or not
conclusion.
you think we can do that, that's what we mean by valid. So, if an argument is valid, it means that if an argument is valid, it means if an argument is valid, it means the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises, right? That's what we mean. You can mean something else, that's fine, but that's what we mean. Yeah. And a sound argument is just a combination between a valid argument and also that the premises are true. It's just those two in conjunction. So you know that the premises are true, and you know that the structure necessarily leads to the conclusion. That actually means that you can't get away from a sound argument. To reject the sound argument would just be irrational.
Well, what I'm saying is I could take that sound argument, take the conclusion, make it into a premise. It would still have a valid premises and a valid conclusion afterwards.
No. Okay, Matt.
Wait.
So
you can do that, Matt. Right? You can take the conclusion of Gigi's argument and use that as a premise. That's actually what we were talking about earlier with precept, right? Because I was asking for a supporting argument for the first premise. That's just the other way around. Remember? You see what I mean?
Yeah, early this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, early this morning. Yeah. So in that example, I'm doing it the other way around. In this example, you are doing it like the other way around again, I guess. Right? And that's not a problem. You can use the conclusion of Gigi's argument as a premise in your argument. That's going to be fine. But to have a conclusion in your new argument that undermines a premise is just going to be the same example that Tom gave earlier. That if God is not Lord, you can't actually derive a conclusion that God is Lord within the argument. That's just going to lead to a contradiction in the conclusion.
So Matt,
I'm not sure. I don't think I agree with that.
So the conclusion of Gigi's argument was essentially you can't know anything, right?
Yes, it commits you to epistemic nihilism.
Right. So if you have that as one of your premises, I can't know anything, but then your conclusion is I can know something. Do you see how that doesn't work?
No, I don't. Because that wasn't really her argument. Her argument is looking for
Tom.
at the
Maybe-
natural world for knowledge.
I mean, I really
But
Wait,
can't
maybe
make it
Matt,
any
can
more
you
simple
just
than that.
world
without
is
giving the full
epistemic, is a
No,
circular
on the
reading.
atheist worldview, epistemic nihilism is true. On the Christian worldview, it's false.
Yeah, see,
But
the
he
Christians
accepted
would
it.
add premises that the
Matt,
atheist
can you-
doesn't hold to that would get them out of it, is my point.
Matt, can you give the first premise of your new argument, right? That's going to be the conclusion of Gigi's argument. Is that right?
Yeah, but I think what it would be better for me to do now, since of all this confusion, is to go back, take Gigi's argument, say the same thing without using the same words in all the premises, and then add another premise, and then add the conclusion after that, and then present it when you guys are least expecting it.
I'm
See
open
what
to
you guys
that.
think.
I'm open to you doing that, but can we just do my thing first, if that's fine, since we're still in the confusion area?
Sure.
Okay, so your first premise in the new argument is Gigi's conclusion. What is that? That you can't have knowledge? I assume you have it written on Facebook. or
Let
something.
me go back and actually reread what she said here. The conclusion is any attempt to give empirical evidence of the existence of the external world is going to be circular.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'll try to write down. I was like a bit preoccupied. Say it a bit slower, please. Any attempt? You're muted, Matt. Hello? Is it me?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
No, I didn't realize I was muted. I was reading it. Okay. Conclusion, any attempt to give empirical evidence of the existence of the external world is going to be circular. I could just mark
Okay, so
out
any
conclusion there and just keep that as a premise.
Yeah, can you post it in chat if you have it like because I can't type in English that fast.
Don't have it. Oh, you want her argument posted in chat?
No, I want the conclusion of her argument to
Oh,
be
I
posted
don't.
in chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hold on. I'll just post her whole argument in chat.
Yeah, that works.
I assume she's okay with that.
I mean, I really don't know how else to put it other than how I put it. If you
So my idea is to give the first premise and then just the conclusion of his argument and see if it's going to be a contradiction.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
E1, 2. I think the chat cuts you off.
He will probably put another one here in just a second.
Okay.
Because it won't actually let you post if it's too long. So he'll
Yeah.
have to cut. Yeah.
Yeah, let me put the conclusion here. I accidentally recopied this first two, and it won't let me. Stupid Clubhouse limits your words, so I'm going to have to copy the conclusion now.
Also, Matt, I have a running bet. What type of small yappy dog do you own? What breed?
I don't have small yapping dogs. My neighbors do. I have a howling beagle and a black lab
Oh, I
mix.
knew that.
Okay,
Okay.
So that's the conclusion, right? And that's going to be the first premise of your new argument, right?
Well, it would just be a continuing premise.
Sure. But you don't need the support for this premise in your new argument. So just the conclusion would be the first premise of your new argument.
Oh, so you're saying I could just use this?
Yeah, you could just use the exactly
first premise on a new argument. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
that's exactly what.
Then...
Yeah, so that's just bring it back to the precept thing. That's exactly what I'm trying to get out when I'm asking for a supporting argument for the first premise, right? They're not giving the supporting argument. They're just giving the conclusion of that premise. Sorry, the conclusion of that argument.
Oh, you're
so
talking
you can
about
just
precepts.
you don't need the supporting premises to you don't need the supporting premises in your new argument. So that's going to be your first premise, right? And what's the? I don't
Okay,
need
so
any
my
other support.
first premise could just be premise one. Any attempt to give
Yeah.
empirical evidence of the existence of the external world is going to be circular.
Yeah. And if you
you guys would agree, they would agree with that, right? Without me having to, because the thing I was thinking about, the first two premises of Gigi's argument would actually establish this third premise.
Okay,
so
but
that's why it could be that
yeah.
I do need to give those first two premises.
But that only if people ask you for a supporting argument for premise one. But regardless, like that's going to be your first premise. So that's fine. And without giving any other supporting premises, just give me the conclusion of your new argument.
Well, the conclusion would be that humans would need a reliable source of revelation that is infallible and infinite from an outside source to get them out of their own vicious cycle of fallible circular reasoning.
Okay, that's fine. But then you see that you are not justified, because that's gonna, like, the outside source is gonna, the conclusion, or the premise one is gonna undermine that conclusion.
Well, no, I think because this commits you to epistemic nihilism, I don't think I would need to. I could just simply say that.
You just have to take it one step at a time,
commits a
right?
person
Like,
to epistemic nihilism, so I don't think I would necessarily need it. I think we'd all agree at this point, this argument commits a person to epistemic nihilism. Not only that, the mind or the brain that is doing this circular reasoning is fallible and faulty and can have false information, so it becomes an even bigger problem. So I could add some more premises to it and then just say, to get out of this, the conclusion would be, or another premise would be, to get out of this, you would need a reliable source of outside revelation to ensure we not only receive but process this information correctly to know truth. Conclusion, or this outside source would be God. Conclusion, God exists, or something like that.
Well, I don't. Okay, well, let's start off simple, right? So this infinite source of knowledge, wisdom, I'll just give you like everything. That's external, right?
What was that?
Well, it's just like not internal to the self.
Correct, yeah.
Right. And if that exists in the external world, then I mean, we're just back to Gigi's argument.
Well, I think we would all have to agree, in order to save us from this fallible circular reasoning, faulty fallible circular reasoning of a fallible mind, there would have to be some sort of outside infallible perfect mind that could not only ensure that we received this information, but that we correctly processed it as well.
How would you determine that, though?
That's correct.
According to your premise one, it's not possible to determine.
It would be a faith foundation, and that's where the presuppositions would be like,
right, so it's
we
unjustified,
believe
right,
what Scripture has
circular.
revealed.
You're unjustified and circular.
Yeah, it's
there,
ultimately still a circular, because it's big. It's found. It's well, I don't even know if you call it.
Yeah, and Gigi's original argument,
think you could call
conclusion,
it
any
circular.
attempt to give empirical evidence of the external world, the existence of the external world, is circular, right? Like that's just the conclusion.
Well, I'm not sure if it might be circular, it might not, because it started with the idea of our own reasoning, but it ends with the idea that we need a reliable source of outside information that could ensure we receive and process this information correctly to know truth.
But you can't determine that there is such a source.
Well, of course we couldn't, because we had already concluded that our minds are fallible to begin with. So it would ultimately say we have to trust first in God, which would go back to the Bible, which it says, lean not on your own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge God.
Yeah, but like the Bible is external to yourself. Like God is external to yourself. All of these things are external to yourself.
Which would be the point, yeah.
No.
Yeah, so then it would be circular.
We would have a reliable source of external.
No,
a reliable
you can't
external
determine,
source.
Matt. You can't determine that it's reliable. You have no way to determine that.
But see, if Jane, if I didn't first accept and have faith it was reliable, then I would just
Yeah,
have to
that's
conclude
circular.
Yeah,
that
right. Circular.
I'm an
Matt, that's
Right.
epistemic
So hang on,
circular.
hang on.
nihilist,
What
right?
stops you? What stops you from having faith? What stops you from having faith and trusting the received information and wisdom of almost 10,000 years of human existence, as opposed to something that, unlike that, you can't see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or feel.
Well, you would just have to say, okay, everything that I have put my trust in, the majority of it has been the result of faulty beliefs, right?
Well, wait a sec. Hang on a sec, though. If you get a pain in your chest and you go to the hospital and a cardiologist operates on you and fixes you, that's one way to do it. Or you could stay in your house and pray to God that he saves your life. What's much more likely to happen statistically? And I understand that,
You're
we
missing the
may have to
point.
rely on our false senses to accept the statistics. But honestly, you're only going to go so far with that. An empiricist will laugh in your fucking face. And
Yeah,
most
but
people
I would have a
have a little bit of
defeater for that as well.
Empirical knowledge is
Oh,
worthless.
Because
really?
the
I'd love to
very
hear it.
hospital
Love to hear
that
it.
you go to was likely founded by people who had a faulty belief about a creator that created a world that with conformity and consistency within it. So
Well, they may
basically,
have wanted they may
so
have wanted to save your
so
life
it
in
would
the
have
name of Almighty
been
Gus,
God.
the
you can't
result of
know
an
Hang
anything
on.
exclusion.
empirical.
Yeah, they may have wanted to save your life in the name of Almighty God, but that doesn't mean that they used anything theological to save it. That's
Well,
pure
see, I would
science, brother.
disagree with that too.
Really,
Yeah, I'll give
really.
you an
And
example.
you study up on You study up on
I'll
cardiology,
give
do
you an
you?
example of
This
I
is
could
all
save him.
completely beside the
Yeah,
point. Why are you going down
I
this rabbit
agree. I
hole?
think we are. I think we're kind of going off the
Well,
point.
you know what? You prosecute your fights the way you want,
Gus,
and I'll
empirical
prosecute mine the
knowledge
way I want.
is like circular, right? Relies on the
No,
reliability of the
I'm
senses.
sorry. I don't accept that. I don't accept that.
Okay, how is it not circular?
It is not. It is simply not. There is no
You
certain.
disagree with
If
Chi-Chi's
anything,
argument?
if anything, it's linear.
Okay.
If anything, it's linear, because it's received. Much of it is received from that which has come before you.
You mean
What?
it's been revealed?
No, we're talking about your reasoning, not like the progression of
No human
facts.
being reasons on their own. No human being reasons completely on their own.
You mean they lean not on their own understanding?
That's right, but on the understanding of other beings and of knowledge that has come before them. But you notice that none of that is God. None of that is God.
What are you talking about?
If you don't understand, just sit there and I'll talk to the guy who does.
Well, I just don't. No human reasons
Well, I
on
do
their
think
own.
Sean's making a good point here.
Like every human does reason on their own.
Completely by themselves. No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
They don't. No, they don't.
What are you talking about? You don't have.
Now you go ahead and say yes, they do, and I'll say no, they don't. We'll do that until you get to
Gus,
it.
I don't have access to your reason.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I have access to your reasons. That's not the same as having access to your reason.
And where do my reasons come from? Comes from my reason.
Oh, it comes from from your mind.
When a person writes down the conclusions of their thoughts, what functionally is the difference between that and their thoughts itself?
When a person writes down the conclusion of their thoughts, what functionally is the difference between them writing down
Go ahead and
the
say it
thoughts
again like you didn't understand it the first time.
themselves?
Go ahead.
Well, it's just weird, but
I understand that it's weird, but I don't come at things from a purely philosophical point of view.
No difference except that one is in like a external medium.
You don't need to see how the sausage is made to accept the sausage.
But the point is that like your reason is your own, right? You don't have any other. I don't have access to your mind. You don't have access to my mind.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Not internally.
Yes, you do. What is the difference? There is no difference.
That's just impossible. That's just like ridiculous. I can't have access to like what it's like to be Gus, what it's like to reason like Gus.
Absolutely, you can.
It's crazy.
Your reasoning and my reasoning are an awful lot closer than the theists want you to believe they are. As a
What?
matter of fact, most
That's not
humans
the point.
don't reason too far away from each other.
It's not my point. The point is that
That is
I don't have
my point.
access to your internal
Yes,
reasoning
you do.
structure.
Yes, you do.
It's
Yes, you do.
internal. That's like a contradiction. It's like
That doesn't mask it. That doesn't hide it.
yes, it does. It's a contradiction.
No, it doesn't. Our reasoning is projected into the world through our behavior, right? Our reasoning is projected into the world through our behavior. You can walk one back to, otherwise psychology doesn't work. Sociology doesn't work. Anthropology doesn't work.
All right, let's take a step back here. So like you don't accept that empirical knowledge is circular, right?
No, not necessarily. It's linear, if anything.
So you don't accept that empirical knowledge presupposes the reliability of your senses?
Not only your senses, no.
That's irrelevant whether it's only it's okay.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
Like all
I'm glad
senses,
you think so.
all agents.
No, this is exactly the bullshit that theists want you to believe. They want you to believe that our modes of thinking would be nothing if not for an external God, and that's simply not true. And that's all I want to talk about the subject. It's
no,
simply
I'm not
correct.
I'm not saying that. I don't hold that belief.
Because
nor am I a
otherwise, to
theist.
go the other way, to go the other way makes the theists correct. It means that we can't do anything without God. I'm sorry. The second that they actually pull a God from anywhere other than a fucking blackboard.
Thank you.
I don't know where you got that.
The second that they pull a God's existence anywhere except from a blackboard, which so far none of them have been able to do.
There's no saving.
Save you from what? Fuck off.
You're our only hope.
I think you're hilarious, Gus. I like you.
Yeah, remember that scene? Remember that scene from Kill Bill?
And now comes Tom with the hammer. Okay.
No, because they go to she goes Uma Thurman. She goes to Kill Bill. She needs the Hattori Hanzo sword. And Hattori Hanzo's like, "You're asking me to do. You're asking me to do.
Comes Tom with the hammer.
What I promised.
I get
to
it.
Never
I get
do
it.
again.
I'll stop. I get it. I'll stop. I get it. I don't need an extra joke crafted on my head.
Wait.
I get it. I'll stop.
Wait. We said we'd never just bring it up again, Tom. That's
yeah.
not. That can't be the only way.
Yeah.
What are you playing, Tom?
Sophie's Choice.
Right.
He's playing Minecraft.
Minecraft? What are you, 12?
Tom is Earth out.
No. That's what Tom's playing, I'm predicting.
He's playing League. Is Earth out, Tom?
I mean, I think I would agree with Gus on a lot of stuff, but with Matt, I think the distinction is just going to be made that it's either the case that you have a priori argument that the external world exists, or you have some a posteriori argument. Do you take that to be a true dichotomy, Matt?
Well, I kind of checked out of the conversation now. Actually, I wanted to just say that I'm coming up with an epic argument using this that I plan on unveiling in the future.
Oh,
and
no.
I
can't wait. I can't wait.
So I don't want to get in too much detail at the moment. So I think I've kind of revealed a lot of information already.
Matt reminds me of one of those early people who are trying to fly. You know, those people in the black and white, like the black and white movies of people building those really weird things that are expected to fly, and then you watch them fall off of cliffs and shit.
If this
I'm curious, why would it need to be top secret though? I guess I'm totally confused. If it's a good argument, it doesn't. You can actually be developing it with people.
Take away. Well, I may be developing it with fellow philosophers.
This is cute. He's trying to come up with his own agape love argument.
Well, no, but I've already.
If you want to discuss, the argument, Matt, I'm down to do that, like in private.
Yeah,
Brad, he needs a big reveal.
Yeah, and actually, I would almost like to reveal it in a debate. called a debate titled "Is Revelation Necessary?" or something of
Oh my
that.
god.
Oh my
We,
god.
we got
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Necessary for what?
Logically
Yeah, and what
necessary.
modality?
Knowledge.
Necessary to get us out of the vicious cycle of epistemic nihilism,
Oh,
or
it's an
something of that nature.
okay. Oh, it's an a priori argument, right?
What does that mean?
A priori means like
That's
knowledge
a
that you
big term.
Oh, fuck.
I got a better idea,
Means
Matt.
it
Here's a
means
better
without
idea.
experience.
Independent argument. Is that what it means?
Forget the argument. Just go to your local community college and apply for Philosophy 101. And then see what happens after that. And logic.
He doesn't
too.
need a community college
Why do I
lecture.
need to do that when I got you?
No, I think more than anything he needs a community college lecture.
I watched a series of lectures from a philosopher on YouTube teaching Rene Descartes. And
Well,
actually,
good for
some
you,
of
Matt.
this
But
is from can be used from that, because that may imply the Cartesian demon scenario, things of that nature as well.
But Matt, the things that you are
epic
using,
argument.
But Matt, the things that you were talking about right now, that's logic, right? So if you were to like get knowledgeable on philosophy or something like that, that wouldn't necessarily help you in rendering arguments, or at least creating. At the very least rendering them, but creating them is like a whole different task.
Well, I have,
and hopefully you watch the lecture on
I have
horses
the foundation
first.
for logic. Jesus Christ, the logos.
Wait, so I think there's going to be an equivocation of what I mean by logic there. I mean like the academia version of law.
We got Cool Man on stage. He's a regular in Ask a Christian. Anyone want to talk to him?
You're asking me
maybe
to
in a
do
second.
what I once said that I would never do again.
You don't have to do that.
To use weapons
No,
that kill people.
Don't do it.
No,
Don't do it, please.
Don't do it.
Please, Tom.
Don't
Please
kill
don't
Cool
do it.
Man. Don't kill Cool Man.
We could just torch him like he's a human being.
What's your meta-ethical view, Tom?
Is this Cool Man?
Cool Man.
Yeah, that's me. So what's your meta-ethical view?
No, that's lag again. Let's talk to Cool Man.
I'll be honest, I'm just not really in the mood to like have that discussion right now.
Well, I'm not looking for a discussion. I'm just looking for an answer.
Talk to Cool Man. He's new.
I thought this was
He
Cool
never
Man.
comes here. No, that's lag.
Oh, but I am a cool man. That's what I'm saying.
Shut up.
Oh, okay.
Moods are for cattle and love play.
What's going on stage? How are y'all?
Okay, first of all, you're
God.
really quiet. You're really quiet.
You sound like you're inside of a wind tunnel.
Is that any better, or is that still kind of low?
Awesome.
That's
no,
great.
you're right.
I said, what's going on stage? How are y'all?
We're terrific.
All right.
Terrific.
So, the mods, are y'all? What's y'all's position? Because I've talked to I think
Haiti.
Sister Haiti. Yeah, I've talked to Sis before. I see a lot of new faces. Rab, I've talked to before. Is it Sister Haiti?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's Haiti.
Are you a sister?
I'll take it. I feel like it's a
stepsister Haiti.
Respect. Let's not make it weird.
My apology.
You're
If
not
that
having a
offends,
sister, right?
if that offends anybody,
It doesn't
my
offend
apology.
me.
Let's just say Haiti, okay?
It doesn't offend me.
Sister was like a nun or something.
So, hold on. God exists because.
God exists because the simplest way I would put it is because you exist.
What's the inference for that?
Well, you didn't create yourself.
Oh, I have a mother.
That's true. He didn't.
That's.
You got me there.
Yeah, but like my mother isn't God, so I don't.
But your mom and dad didn't create you either. They came together. They came together, and because one could not have you without the other, so even that logic is way out the window.
And somebody can't build a house without, structural steel and cement. So what?
Well, that's the whole point. Something must be present.
So mommy had her egg. Daddy had his little swimmies.
Mm-hmm.
The swimmies went on a fucking marathon after a good whoopee. And into the little egg they went, and they combined. They held hands, and then they split and split and split and split and split.
That sounds really good because that's the format, right?
Story, right?
But somebody explain the layout to where we can get it to where a human can make another human or create another human. Let's hear that.
I think that's what was just given to you.
No. What you gave is something that is already in existence. Reproduction is something that's already existing, already present. That's not something that's created. That's already created. That's not something that just all of a sudden, just wham, blam, shabam, it's brand new, never happened before. That's no. That's something.
That existence started?
Yeah, exactly. Even if you go to existence, because the question was originally positioned, you know, how this, I'm kind of paraphrasing, how God exists.
This entire room has been like completely obliterated by an argument for epistemic nihilism. So no one here actually knows why or how existence started. So if you have like a plausible reason to give, then
well,
by all means.
This would be the one I would throw in the air. Is simply say God. That would be the simple.
That's just not a explanation.
Okay, I would say creator then, because we're not
still just a
we're
word,
not
an explanation.
Okay, that it doesn't change what the word means, right? So I would say
true.
creator. That's what I would say.
That's the same word with just a different like emphasis. But so it's still just a word, it's not an explanation. I could refute you actually by just saying evolution.
I can't explain God if that's what you're trying to insinuate. I can't explain
you can't
him.
Explain it? Okay.
No. There's no God has no he has no explanation. Like I've never heard somebody explain God.
So he doesn't exist?
I have.
No.
Being of which no greater can be thought.
Well, so he's like a brute.
I mean, that's fine. That's a perspective on it, right? But trying to explain God, it'd take you an eternity to do that.
No, a being of which no greater can be thought.
Look, this is why.
This is.
Well, that's one way of explaining it.
It's not a perspective.
Right. So this is why it says it takes faith to even receive Him. Like we receive Him by faith because we choose to believe that He is.
Well, that's an explanation.
Amen.
But why would that be rational?
Because there's no explanation of faith. We just believe it.
There's no explanation?
No.
I don't think that's right.
Well, we know the definition of faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. That's how it's defined. But still, explain that.
Explain the definition.
Mind, by the way, that's a definition that was given outside the Bible.
Right. So that's just how I've always, me personally, how I've always received it to be. Substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. So it's something that you build upon. Even you having faith or putting faith in something that hasn't happened yet. Like for instance, I have faith that I'm going to build a house one day. Hasn't happened yet. Well, I haven't done it. But I still have the faith toward that to believe that it's going to come to pass. But I don't have the proof yet. I don't have the evidence yet because I'm not working I am working toward that, but I haven't started building it.
That's fine. So you're saying you're unjustified in believing God exists then?
That's how you put it. No, that's how you put it.
No. I asked you if you agree with that characterization. I didn't say that that's the case.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that that's the case either.
Oh, okay, cool. So you have a justification. Is that the idea?
It's faith alone. There's no further.
You said that faith is unjustified belief, right?
I didn't say that.
You said you didn't have.
I didn't have this.
No. Justification yet.
I didn't
have the evidence or justification yet.
but I didn't say that like that. It might, you might take it that way, but I didn't say it like that. I said it exactly as it was. No, I just said it as it's written, that it's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And then I gave a perspective.
Yeah, but then you gave an example also with the house that you haven't built yet. You couldn't
Right.
prove it because there was no justification yet.
Right.
There was
The
no
only
evidence yet.
see this right here.
To build a, yeah, sorry.
I was just saying that right there is where faith steps in, because you can't grab faith.
Yeah, but you said
show me what faith looks like.
Yeah, you said that faith was when you don't have a justification or evidence yet. Is that not true? Did I misunderstand?
It's the substance of things hoped for. So you're hoping for something.
So
yeah,
it's
you
just a
hope.
So it's just
right.
a hope that God exists.
That's what faith is.
So you hope that God exists?
Who wouldn't hope it? If you look, it goes beyond the hope thing. I have evidence. Me personally, my evidence is not your evidence, though. I shared with you in the very beginning what my evidence is. It's evident to me that no man can create a man. That's evident enough to know that there is a creator God.
I would agree with you there. No man can create a man.
Look, it's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
That's faith.
It's a blind hope.
Right. Well, that's why I said specifically to me. I can't say for anyone else. To me, the grass, the sky, I can keep going with the things you all have already heard.
No, but we're talking about the concept of like evidence here. Like,
you're saying what is the actual evidence that God exists?
Well, I'm asking for what I'm asking for is the evidence that
right?
What I'm asking for is the evidence that you have to believe the proposition. Not that I should believe it, but what evidence do you have?
Faith.
Well,
that's it.
Okay, so
I don't have anything outside.
Faith is the absence of evidence.
Well, it says the evidence of things. It says the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's what it says.
So faith is evidence now?
That's what the defining of it is,
and
not what I think.
Okay, so if
evidence is observed, though, so how can you have evidence of things not seen?
But is it the case that
go ahead.
If it's the case that I have faith in something, does that mean that it's true?
Well, see, here's the thing.
Just
something
yes or
true
no,
to
and then
you.
Give the elaboration, please.
Okay, I would say yes to a certain extent, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because something can be true to you and not be true to me. I could be thinking something you're not thinking, but it's true that I'm thinking it and you're not.
Define truth.
What? That has nothing to do with
just
truth.
define
It's
truth.
still a fact that corresponds to reality, though.
But what I'm telling you is that I can truly. No, listen.
What's true to me is true to me, and what's true to you is
no.
But I don't see how this like relates to the point that like somebody can have faith in something and it can be false.
Too many people talking.
Way too many people talking.
Yeah, you can have faith in something and it could be false, right?
Yeah. No.
But that's true to you. Your disbelief. Listen, that doesn't make it the truth. Understand? Y'all miss what I said. I said I can.
What's your definition of truth?
Thank you, Jane.
The definition of my definition of truth?
Yeah, for you, what's your definition?
Something that is for certain.
Something that is for certain.
That is sure. That is surely.
That is surely what.
But you asked me. You asked me what my definition was. You didn't ask me the definition. You said what's your definition.
That's true.
That's fine.
So for sure, what you said that is for certain. For sure.
Yeah, it's certain. Truth is certain.
Okay. So
there is no. It can't be a lie and be true. Like that's why I use my thought as a perspective because what I think you might not be thinking, but it's still true that I'm thinking it. You see?
If we sideline your definition of truth just for a moment, and we use another definition, would you be fine with that?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
If we sideline your definition of truth, and I supply my own definition, and we use that instead, can we do that just for the sake of the conversation?
I mean, at that point, we're just talking how I receive it, how you receive it. I mean, and if you want to stand on the foundation, then we can go to the true definition of it.
I don't think there's anything.
And not my thought.
I'm not a language realist. I don't know what it means to have like a true definition. But So
like just the dictionary definition.
yeah,
of
dictionaries
truth.
can contradict, but
Right.
So
Really
if instead of saying truth, let's just say that's which corresponds with reality, right? Do you think it's true? Sorry, do you think God corresponds? The God hypothesis corresponds with reality?
Well, you're asking me my perspective on it.
Yep.
And I'm gonna say, show me somebody that can create grass.
Giving a command to that question is kind of weird.
But that's the reason I answered it that way is because that's evidence to me. I have to be specific. To me, that's
Sorry, it was
something.
a yes or no question. Do you remember the
Well,
question?
And he wasn't asking for evidence.
Okay, go ask the question. Ask it again. I apologize.
Do you think the God do you think the God hypothesis is corresponding to reality? Yes or no? And then
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say a hypothesis, but yes, to answer your question, it does correspond to reality. Yes.
Okay, and what's the evidence for that?
Same thing I said in the very beginning. You exist.
I don't see the inference. Can you supply the inference?
Yeah, it's again, you didn't just appear here. You didn't just poof and all of a sudden you're here. You came by the layout of, like someone was saying earlier, the seed and the sperm and the egg and this stuff happening in the womb, right? But even that came from something that was already existing. Your mom and dad already existed. That seed, that sperm already existed. This is not something man or woman created. Even that, to me, shows the evidence of something greater than people, a creator.
So because you don't know how people are created, therefore God. Is that the idea?
No one knows how people are, other than what is written. I mean, if you read, if you do that, then
knows then. I can supplement that. So because no one knows how people are created, therefore God. Is that the idea?
Well, it doesn't tell us how we're created. It tells us how we're formed. I mean, if you go biblically, it tells you that we were formed from the dust. But it doesn't tell you how he created us. It just says, and God created man and woman. That's what it says.
That's what it says.
Yeah, that's actually written in there. But again, that's biblical content. And I guess we're just having open discussion. But that's what I stand on. But I can't explain to you how we are created other than to say God did it. That's it.
Do you know how to like give a logical argument, like in a structured argument, a formal structure?
To be honest with you, I'm really bad at that. I can have these kind of discussions, but as far as that's concerned, I'm not really the best in that field.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
How did you determine that God created us?
How did I determine?
Yeah.
Because no man created me.
Well, no, you came from your parents, so how did you determine God created you?
That's the determination, because there is no person that created a person. That's how I determined it.
Your parents created you. What do you mean?
Yeah, they didn't create.
Yeah,
that's
they
the
did.
thing.
Literally, they did.
No, they came together and had me.
Yeah, and in that coming together,
they create? Let me.
human being.
You're just equivocating on the term.
Using their reproductive organs, they created a new human being.
Right. That's something that's already, again, existing. In order to create, in order to correct me if this is wrong, now we can recreate and reproduce.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. So you're talking about how the first kind of, you just think that there's no way we just popped into existence, right?
I don't see that we create each other. I don't see that.
Because we don't know how life began, you're just assuming it's some supernatural creature, right?
No, I would say.
Of course you are. That's what you're doing. Why would you assume that?
No, I wouldn't do that. So,
isn't that your entire argument?
No,
you don't know how.
I think maybe he's saying that we're like a
you're
rearrangement of existing things.
No, he doesn't know how life began. He doesn't. We don't know what.
He's talking about abiogenesis.
That's what he's talking about.
He's talking about abiogenesis.
Exactly, because there's no explanation for it. He's just shoving a supernatural
But
creature in
that's
there.
like saying there's an explanation for God.
No, there's nothing like saying that. You're just
It
shoving an
is.
explanation into something that we don't know the answer to. It's just got to the gaps.
Right, right. And that's what I said earlier. Who can explain God?
I'm not asking you to
Well, the
explain
problem is
God.
that
That's
every
not my
time we've
point.
lifted a rock that represents a mystery of
Yeah,
the
Gus,
world,
you're really
we
low.
haven't found God underneath. We've found science.
I mean, science does a very good job at showing you, to me, I'm not knocking science. I actually like science, okay? So science to me shows a very good layout that they can't do what has already been.
You're avoiding the question.
Okay, what's the question? I'm sorry.
Do you know how life began?
How life began?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you as I received it, right?
So you're not going to answer me. You don't
No,
know,
I'm
right?
answering.
None of us know, right?
I am going to answer that. I only know what's been written. So
right.
here's
so
the
you read
answer.
it in the Bible, right? And that's why
Well,
you think it's true.
what do you want me to answer?
Well, I'd like you to be a bit more direct, yeah.
Okay, I'll be simply direct. God breathed breath into man's nostrils.
Right. How did you determine that?
Because it was written. I mean, how else would I determine
you read it
that?
in the Bible, right? Remember I said that 2 minutes ago? So you read it in the Bible, and
I believe it by faith. I believe it by faith, yes.
Okay.
That's why that's where faith comes. Anything past that, we're not going to get an understanding of it. It's just that you're just not. You're not.
So you read it in the Bible, you determine it's true. Is that absence of another explanation?
No, there's all kinds of other perspectives.
No, there actually isn't. You don't know how life began, right?
I just shared with that you asked me personally. God is where I'm gonna say life began at.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how else to say. What are you expecting me to answer? Like, are you trying to get me to answer a certain way, or do you want me to be honest with my answers with how I receive it?
So
like, I don't understand.
all you're saying is you read something in a book and you believe it. I mean, why should we care about that?
You shouldn't. Who said that you should care about it? We're just having discussion, right?
So, I mean, do you think that's convincing?
I don't. That's one thing that I wasn't convinced that he existed.
You weren't convinced?
No.
What convinced you then?
I've not been convinced that he exists, and here's why. I was raised this way, so there was no convincing to be done. I was already embedded in my head, so I might be a little bit of a different. You see what I'm saying? I'll have to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
I appreciate
didn't.
that. So you're indoctrinated with this belief?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Does that ever bother you?
No, because I have closure there. I don't have a wonder about anything. I just put it all on him, so I don't wonder about anything. Because to me personally, he seals the wondering. I no longer have to wonder about where something or how something is done.
That doesn't sound very fun.
I mean, there's some, Muslim somewhere that was also indoctrinated in their belief, right? How do you know he's not the truth? That's not the truth.
I wouldn't argue him. He's
But
entitled.
But are you not trying to determine what's true?
Me determine what's true?
Are you not interested in the truth? I mean, you're just like,
yeah, absolutely.
I was indoctrinated into this faith, so I believe it.
Until somebody can show me,
faith, so he believes it. But we're nowhere near to discovering the truth, are we? I mean, you're just talking about indoctrination now.
Right. So what I would say, until someone can disprove that God exists, I'm gonna stick with God exists.
Okay.
Now, prove. Can anybody on the stage prove that God doesn't exist? Anybody?
Yeah, probably with arguments.
Me. Yeah, certain gods, sure.
Yeah, definitely. We could try and disprove the Christian God. Are you open to that argument?
No, just God in general.
Oh, why in general?
In general, because
Right,
I just said God. I didn't say the Christian
but
God.
you believe in a specific God,
true,
right?
Look, I'm just asking an open question. Y'all are trying to make it closed.
Because you're a Christian. Why should we disprove some deity that isn't even your God?
So this is why I said God in general.
Why?
To avoid the bias point of this. Because I don't. It is biased to say that, hey, it's just you prove any God exists. Do that.
You need to prove any God exists. You said if I could hear like a reason to disprove the God I believe in,
No, I didn't say
then I
I
would stop.
believe in. I didn't say I believe in. I said prove that God doesn't exist.
Okay, and I think there are arguments that many people on this stage could give to you that would logically show that God doesn't exist. Are you
Well, that,
interested in hearing any?
yeah, absolutely. And I'll say this, and then I'll mute up and I'll listen. It's no different than me giving you how God does exist to me,
Well, you haven't actually
versus
given an argument. You just said you were
because
indoctrinated
I
as a
wasn't.
child.
Yeah, because I wasn't trying to. I didn't come up to argue. I like having these discussions because I just like discussion pieces like this. I think it's good for maybe others that maybe hear it as well as myself. So I enjoy these type of discussions. Is how I would put it.
Right.
Not arguments, just discussions to me.
Right, I felt like that you were issuing a bit of a challenge because you said if I could be shown that God doesn't exist, then I'd have no reason to believe it, right?
I wouldn't say I don't have a reason to
If you were
disbelieve it.
shown, didn't you just say something like that? Like I haven't been
Yeah,
convinced otherwise?
exactly. Until somebody can show me that God does not exist, I'm going to stick with God exists, is what I
That's fair.
said.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyone want to render an argument to show God doesn't exist?
I mean, it's
Yeah,
going to be a
I have
little
some arguments.
complicated because, I mean, what people mean by God is just like different, right? There might be some general concept, but I think it's going to be somewhat like a chair concept.
Hey guys, I'm gonna close the room to save the replay, okay? Somebody else make a room.
I appreciate that you did not make John Lee a moderator, Carlos, and I salute you for that.
Oh yeah, actually the real reason I'm closing the room is because I don't want to step. I'm going into a social room, but I don't want to step on Tom's toes. So you can go make a room, Tom.
Oh no,
I just got here like 5
minutes.
minutes ago.
Yeah,
I
Okay.
definitely
you
would
send him
like
down?
to.
Can you block him from the room before you close it, please?
I would.
That's the one he believes in. That's the one he's been indoctrinated into. That's the one we should be arguing that doesn't exist. Oh, Jack can do it.
All right then.
If he comes back, which he might not. I appreciate his honesty there.
Oh
What the
no!
fuck? What?
You blocked too?
You fucking degenerate. Finally, we're talking to someone who isn't John or Matt.
This
And
is why I
Jack.
love Jack.
Listen, should we talk to Matt some more, Jack? Is that what you want?
Actually, I find Matt more entertaining than that guy.
Dear God.
You were probably laughing your head off in the last room, Jack.
Why? What happened? I was actually at a couple movies.
He wanted to take the conclusion of Gigi's argument and use it as a premise in his own, such that premise one would be you can't know anything, blah blah blah. Premise two, and then conclusion, you can know something, and he couldn't understand why that was not possible.
Okay, Jack, you break it, you own it. Debate Matt, go. Unbelievable.
Detroyer about lost his mind.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like the amount of logical just mishaps were just through the roof. And yeah, it was crazy. Like Detroyer must have been like shaking.
What? Detro Twat was awake for a change? Good for him.
He almost fell out the hot tub.
Not today. He
The
wasn't in the hot
Troyer was
tub.
shaking in his shoes.
He
All I
wasn't
was
in the
wanting
hot
to
tub
do
today.
was
It's 32 degrees
rearrange
outside today.
He was in the hot tub
rearrange
maybe last night.
Godless's argument to, and not even rearrange it. I just wanted to make her conclusion another premise, add a couple more premises, and make a conclusion for my own. But as I said, I'm working on an epic argument that I hope to unveil before Christmas.
Jack, it's a tossed word salad. That's what we decided it was.
Salad
Now,
or
I
solid?
know Jack enjoys a tossed salad. So go ahead, talk to Matt. Go ahead.
Well, I don't want Jack asking me a bunch of questions already because I'm still so what it's a philosopher calls it the lack of reliable how does it put the lack of reliable source of revelation in the atheist worldview. And I'll not reveal the name of the philosopher.
Matt, that argument was thrown very together very quickly because that guy Gray Knight or whatever was demanding my shit in the form of a syllogism. So I think my argument's actually question begging. I wouldn't use it.
Well, I thought that was the whole point of the argument, was that it was question begging.
Right. Well, no, that wasn't supposed to be the point of the argument. But if they do say the first premise is question begging, then they're kind of admitting that all empiric observations would be begging the question for their view, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they agreed to the premise, which it seems some atheists were, doesn't it leads one to be committed to epistemic nihilism?
No, just they wouldn't be able to know things about the external world. That it doesn't lead to epistemic nihilism necessarily though, because they could say like they know 1 + 1 = 2 and stuff.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Hey, y'all
find
know
the
this, huh?
definition.
You'll wake up in hell. You'll wake up in...
Who the heck? See if I can find the definition of epistemic nihilism. Make sure I've got it right. Maybe here we go.
Oh, well, there's different.
Epistemic nihilism is a form of philosophical skepticism according to which knowledge does not exist, or if it does exist, it is unattainable to human beings. Is that correct?
That's my view, yeah. Sean
Okay,
tried to
so
say I'm not an epistemological nihilist, but he gives a different definition of it. But yeah.
What you're saying that your argument wouldn't necessarily commit someone to epistemic nihilism if it goes through.
That particular one is just about the external world. So like they can't know a chair with that argument. They can't know like a chair is in front of them, say, because they could be in the matrix.
Well, since I'm talking to the philosopher that made the argument, and it might not be what she thinks it is, maybe I might have to rethink my approach. Because I actually posted your argument on Facebook today, Gigi. Because I thought it was a good
You
argument.
threw it out to the birds. What happened? They pick it up?
They're kind of the Matt Dillahunty type atheists, so they just kind of tried to poo-poo it off, and then I said, I actually mentioned at one point it was from a YouTuber who's been in conversations with other atheists, and she thinks that other atheists make bad arguments, so she's trying to help them make better arguments, and
that probably pissed them off.
Yeah, and then there's a guy by the name of Raymond Slade Hessen in that group who I've known literally since
I've
day
known that
one.
guy.
Yeah, literally since day one of me joining Facebook. And he's like, yeah, I've seen those conversations, blah, blah, blah. And he must know you, too, from Discord. But he didn't really have anything negative to say against you. He was just talking about seeing videos with me, talking to Darth Arianis and talking to Jack and other videos and all of that. And he was criticizing me, but he never had any criticism towards your argument. So I found that kind of strange. So he must have some respect for you.
Well, if any of them start to have a meltdown about it, tell them to come on here and debate me about it.
Well, that's what I told him. I said, you're welcome to come on Clubhouse and challenge Gigi, Godless Girl, or go on her YouTube channel. I'm sure she could set something up, have a debate. And, of course, what I started getting at this point is pictures of Matt Dillahunty, because they remembered me calling the Atheist Experience show in the past, and they'll what they often bring up when I make these posts, especially in that group, because that was the group that originally challenged me to call the Atheist Experience show, is they'll say, "Hey, do y'all remember when Matt called the Atheist Experience show and got owned by Matt Dillahunty?" And then they'll start posting pictures of Matt Dillahunty smiling, and that's typically the responses I get in those posts, which is why I don't really make a lot of posts. But I had received a messenger from a woman who was wondering if I was still alive, because she hadn't seen me on Facebook in a long time. And so, and they were talking about me in one of the groups. So I asked what group it was, and she told me it was a couple of groups. So I decided to post in the bigger group that they're in. John Lee and I used to be legends in there, so I guess
Raymond only talks about science.
Oh
He
my
says he has
God.
no
Yeah.
proclivities to believe in God. That's his
Well,
statement
and that's
all the
what
time.
I did with Raymond. I posted that quote from William Lane Craig that talks about that. I'm paraphrasing. He said, "Philosophers of science in the 20th century come to realize that the whole scientific enterprise was built on presuppositions that are required by science but can't be demonstrated by science." And then started listing the laws of logic, the validity of inductive reasoning, the conformity of nature, objective moral values used in science. He said that science is required for these but can't be demonstrated. So that was a quote I put down to see what they respond to, and mostly I got laughing emojis and things of that nature. John Lee, do you remember I was in a conversation earlier with Johnny Bickle? I don't remember. He said that he was in the group and was one of the people encouraging me to call the AC Experience show way back in 2017. But
Yeah,
I told him if I could go back and look at the posts and see his comments, I'd probably remember him based on his picture profile, but I just don't remember him very well.
He's kind of low key, but yeah, I definitely remember him.
Well, he said he kind of followed us around from group to group. So I guess he was kind of a groupie maybe.
Yeah, the first time I was interested, I remember him definitely, but I was wondering what he sounded like. He's from Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he's definitely been around for years. Yeah, it was just that he never actively participated in the debates and discussions.
Oh, okay.
It was more like like just someone who observes, you know.
He said he used the word awe. He was in awe of the attention we, I guess, got on Clubhouse. I don't know. So he must have been surprised at that.
Why would he be surprised? You and I always.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, we made arguments that put people in awe, so I don't know why he'd be surprised at that.
I kind of heard a little bit what was going on this morning, Matt. I mean, I think you're onto something. I think just clean it up a little bit, you know. But I think you have the right idea.
I can't remember what I was saying this morning.
I like the angle you're going about trusting our mental faculties and things like that.
Oh yeah, I call it. It's called the need for a reliable source of revelation argument, but I can't reveal my sources for the argument because I don't want to discredit myself. Who's that?
Plantinga.
He's ripping off Plantinga. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does Planting can argue for the need of outside revelation?
I mean, like you almost say it word for word. So, like, why is this even in dispute?
Well, I know Plantington's. I've heard of Plantington's argument as far as not trusting
Plankton.
your own cognitive abilities.
Planning
But
to.
I didn't know that he said that we would need a reliable outside source of revelation.
You know, Darth
I mean, maybe
Dawkins
he
talks
does.
about
Maybe
revelation
he
a lot.
does. Yeah, because if you were to if you're going to make the argument we can't trust our own cognitive faculties, I'm assuming he would say you would rely on God, but you could. You would. Seems like he would probably have to say there would have to be a reliable source to be a being as God to ensure that not only do you receive this revelation, but that you are capable of processing it correctly to overcome your own mental incapacities, I guess.
They're getting triggered because you're not pronouncing Plantinga right.
We're not getting
Yeah,
triggered. We're just
I'm
making
not
fun
real
of him.
familiar with him. I think I've heard people mention him before, but actually this argument, I didn't come up with this argument myself. I'll tell you where I actually first heard a hint of this argument. I was listening to a debate. What's that British kid, big YouTuber, Cosmic Skeptic?
The guy from Oxford?
Yeah. He was in a debate actually with a Muslim. And there was some sort of something come up, and I can't remember what was said, but the Muslim said something about that, saying, well, trusting your own cognitive faculties in a natural process that was unreliable and had issues or something like that. And I said, hey, and he just kind of made a statement. I got to think about that. I never thought about that before. And then whenever I started kind of thinking about it, and then I said something about it, either here on Facebook one time, someone said it was from that philosopher. So I guess that's where he originally got that from. But I only heard it as a response to something Cosmic Skeptic had, but it wasn't detailed.
You happy, Jack?
I've heard Darth talk a lot, Matt. Doesn't he kind of have the position that the only reason we know things is because God reveals things to us, whether we believe in God or
well, that's another
claim
reason
not to
why
believe?
I wanted. Yeah, that's another reason why I was trying to thinking about that, because I remember what's Darth's buddy, not Ton, but the other one, Red Robin,
J. Robin.
He was in a room one time, and he was talking about Revelation, and he was being mocked for Revelation. And then I actually opened up a room. I don't know if you remember this, back in the winter, that was titled something about the need for revelation. And I just kind of did it on a whim, and I actually started talking about revelation in the sense of that I had this idea that God existed from very young age and received this revelation within nature, or this understanding within nature. And then I received different revelation from my teachers, and I defined it as revelation in the sense that it wasn't something that I was looking at nature and concluding myself about the theory of evolution, things of that nature. So I was kind of putting that in the category of revelation that was kind of in conflict with my other revelation. And then I received revelation of the gospel later. So I was kind of I opened up a room like that, and it was a very good room. And then Darth came in, and it was still good, but I think I modded Darth, and then Darth left, and then something happened, and I left the room, and I think it was Haiti actually made a kind of a response room to it, and I remember getting a back channel message from Justin that somehow atheists had become mods and had taken over my room at that point, and I just ended my room randomly, went back in there and ended it real quick. And then I remember another room opened. That was where JMIKE was in. Haiti had opened that room. JMIKE was in it. Jack was in it. I think Darth Arianis and a lot of other people. And then JMIKE was asking me about revelation and what I meant. I remember having a conversation with him, and that conversation, I think, ended up being on JMIKE's YouTube channel. So that's why I just remember all that. And I think actually Jack and I got into it, and I think that made it onto someone's YouTube channel. So that's why I specifically remember that day, and that revelation thing had been kind of in the back of my head since then. I've been kind of thinking about it. So I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to try to make a deep philosophical argument here. So it's in the early foundational working stages, and maybe I can present it by Christmas. So me and John Lee might have to put on the back burner the paper
I can't wait that
we're
long.
writing. Maybe Halloween.
Well, we still need to work on that. Theism exists, therefore atheism is false.
Yeah, I mean that's an important one too. So I've got so many philosophical papers I need to write. So, but if you could get us going on that one, John, then that would be great, because I'd be willing to put this one on the back burner.
Well, I just want to know if we're on the same page, Matt. Do you, for example?
I like your argument. I like your argument. Your little premise, two premise, one conclusion argument that you presented. Yeah. I think that works pretty good, and I think we can work with that.
I do want to know. Do you hold the view that all true propositions that atheists know are revealed by God to them? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I don't know if I would. Maybe you could say it's either revealed directly or indirectly. You could kind of divide it up that way, but yeah, I would agree to that. What about you?
Yeah, I would say I would say they are directly revealed the truth by God.
Okay,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay with that too. I was just trying to think. Would you say direct or indirect revelation?
I don't exactly know what you mean by indirect.
Well,
kind of like he put something out there, and then they somehow, on their own, kind of glean it or something, infer it or something.
I think maybe like something like being presented the gospel. God, kind of this divine appointment in which where I end up going to a job in which someone just happened to be there who lost their insurance, who wouldn't have been there without that, who happens to be there, happens to be talking about the gospel with someone else, and I happen to overhear it, kind of a divine appointment, and I hear that directly. I would almost consider that maybe direct revelation, and maybe that's not even a good way of putting it, but more direct, and then the Bible is direct from God, and then maybe the other things, indirect revelation, would be something like depending upon the laws of logic to reason, or depending upon getting a shot from the doctor, because our whole scientific enterprise was based upon the idea that the conformity of nature that is guaranteed by a Christian worldview, and maybe that would be some sort of indirect revelation, but I don't even know if that's the right way to put that.
Yeah, the issue is no atheist is going to say that anything that they know, any true proposition they know, came directly from God. Like, no one's going to sign off to that. You do realize that, right?
Yeah, I agree that. Yeah.
So
we would have to overcome that hurdle. If you're talking about that being part of the argument, we'd have to kind of overcome that somehow. And you atheists, if you want to help us out, feel free.
At the very least, it has to come from a mind or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be God.
Yeah.
It has to be maybe some sort of necessary mind or that kind of thing.
Now, are we talking, make sure we're talking about the same, are we talking about now the atheism or theism requires atheism argument, or the requirement for revelation argument?
Well, I'm not talking about general or special revelation. I'm just talking about the understanding or knowledge of true propositions. Any true proposition, like the grass is green, like that.
Okay.
I don't know if you were talking about
it
in that way.
I don't think I was exactly talking about that, but carry on. I'm kind of interested.
Like my view is that the atheist knows the grass is green because God himself has revealed it to them.
Okay. I agree.
Okay, so you do agree. Okay, I was just wondering what you
Yeah,
thought
I don't
about.
have a problem with that statement. Yes. Now, obviously, like you said, the atheist would not agree to that. So, I guess you'd have to figure out how would we argue to support that, and almost kind of force the atheist into agreeing, maybe unwillingly somehow. I don't know.
Well,
I
mean, kind of the argument would have to be something like, the truth can be known, right? That's like a premise, and the truth cannot be known by our mental faculties, and a mind provides that knowledge. A mind external to our own reveals that knowledge, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, type that stuff out and send it to me.
Sure, I guess I'll tweak on that.
Yeah. In the meantime, if atheists want to challenge us, we're here.
Yeah, I am an atheist.
Oh, keep going. I think your discussion's fascinating.
Okay. So now, are you talking about using this, John, in the simple argument that we were talking about, where I said that atheism proves God exists, or atheism is argument for God? Because, well, I forgot how you argued it, but if theism is true, atheism is false.
Well, that goes without saying. You know.
Yeah.
But even more simplified, because that kind of is, I don't know if they call that begging the question. I mean, it's just like, it's trivially true. I guess that's what they say, right?
Yeah. Now, the argument that I kind of just tossed out when we were having a conversation.
Can we not talk? Let's not talk. Let's go to sleep. Come on, it's nearly 11 o'clock.
No, we're dealing with intellectual heavyweights.
Okay, let John talk, because he has a soothing ASMR voice and he'll put you to sleep.
Yeah, nice. Just whisper it a bit more.
I just nonstop trolling. It's just like kind of boring. It's like really low level shit.
By the way, whatever dogs you have in your PTR or look like little hound dogs. I like them.
They're John Lee claws. I mean stone crab claws. Sorry.
Oh no, I was talking about Hades' PTR.
Hades puppies. She's got puppies in her PTR.
Sorry.
Not everything's about you, Tom.
Sorry.
I don't. Well, Tom's only makes me crave seafood when I see his PTR.
John, you're roboting.
Oh no.
I went back and listened to the replay from last night to see how many times John Lee interrupted Matt to try to get into that conversation. And in 31 total minutes of Matt's conversation, John interrupted 50 times. And at 18 minutes into the conversation, he had interrupted 41 times and said, I only interrupted once.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I remember he claimed that he only interrupted one time.
Yeah, no, he interrupted every 37 seconds on average.
He was triggered out of his mind.
No, I didn't mean one time in one instance of answering Altoid's question. That's where I tried to simply give him a 10-second answer.
Yeah, you're full of shit, John.
And then
Fuck you.
10-second answer.
Fuck
and
you,
I was
John.
gonna mute up and then listen and let it go on. It was really you guys. As soon as I unmuted, this is the issue. I was listening to all of it, your discussions today. You guys pretend that you want.
It's not metaphysical.
No,
It's not
metaphysical. 5-on-1 against
metaphysical.
theists. You think that if the theist is there, everyone's free to just go at the theist. But if there's two theists, oh no, we can't have that.
The issue was you were stomping all over Matt. Today, and even yesterday, more than two people can have a civil conversation, right? But when you start stomping on people, then there isn't a civil conversation anymore. An adult can take turns with more than two people. We've done that all day today. There hasn't been any problems. Matt hasn't complained There haven't been 5-on-1s, like you've said, at all.
That's
None of
not
that has
true.
happened. When has there been a 5-on-1 today?
Just in the last room, and then you said, I heard you guys say,
I said
oh,
everyone's
everyone's over
talking over
talking or
each
something
other,
like that.
and then
I was just
everyone
going
stopped,
lulls.
like adults, right? Everyone stopped.
Yeah.
You did not stop. Did you not hear how many times you interrupted?
I guarantee you, had you mods just did nothing, right? And Altai was saying something. He asked Matt a question. Matt took about 2 minutes answering it, and it was I specifically remember the question, and so when I was trying to answer it, you, as soon as I unmuted and said like 2 or 3 words, like, had you had the patience to just let him answer, and then they could have continued, but you guys got triggered. I'm telling you.
No, you
This
have
happened
proven,
actually several times before.
like
Like
right
not just
now,
once
you
or twice.
stopped, you muted up, I started talking, and then you unmuted to continue talking and overtalk me. You've proven that you cannot be trusted to say something quickly or succinctly in any sort of way. You always bloviate.
Yeah,
You always step
I
on
don't buy
Matt.
that.
Okay.
Well, did after I left, did Triple B, did he
Yeah, they
have
dogpiled
a,
him too, but they pretend
dogpiled
they
him?
want one on
Well,
one.
I
It
knew they
wasn't
were
about the
they put him down.
conversation.
I knew they moved him down at one point, and then he came
Yeah,
back
we
up,
brought
and
him
then I
back
ended
up.
up leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they dogpile
As
him
a free
afterwards,
for
Sean?
all, basically on the lone theist. I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, that's not fair.
Wow.
The problem was he was
Wow.
trying to do it like a devil's advocate type of thing, where he was trying to render your argument, Matt, but he didn't
Now they're
actually believe
pretending
it.
they want excuses.
Well, I
I'm
knew
just saying.
he was saying he was trying to steel man. I remember that, and I
But
thought he was
then
doing
at
not a good
the
job of
end of
steel
that
manning my argument. But
conversation, he too admitted that he was not making the same argument you were making. So it was very confusing as to what he kept saying. He didn't believe what he was saying, but he was also not agreeing with you. So I don't really
yeah,
understand what he was trying
I
to do.
remember all that. Yeah, I remember that, and then I remember Tom sending him down, and then Tom brought him back up, and he continued for about 5 minutes or so, and then after that, I went to bed, and I didn't know if he stayed longer. He was still talking when I left, so I didn't know if there was ever any conclusion or if it just ended in some sort of
Yeah,
confusion.
I'll tell you what happens. They may deny it, Matt, but they want a procession of theists, one at a time, where they just dogpile, get rid of, dogpile the next one, get rid of, dogpile the next one, get rid of. Sometimes, and then check this out, Matt.
You know,
Then they have
John,
no more
Matt can
theists,
actually
right?
think for himself.
See how he has to overtalk me? But then this is what happens. Then they look around, they see me on stage, silent for 4 hours. They go, "Oh, look, there's John." And as soon as I
John, you have
respond,
a
let's
real
say,
problem
they
with
do the very
talking
same thing
down
because they're
to
in that
or over
frenzy.
talking. Yeah, I'm just going to keep over talking you. You have a real problem
Yeah.
with over talking Matt.
Wow, unbelievable.
Jane, how many times did John interrupt?
So I wrote it down. In the 31 total minutes of conversation, he interrupted 50 total times.
Wow. John,
Yeah.
can you
So
just
he interrupted every
acknowledge?
37 seconds.
Can you acknowledge
It's
that
more
you're?
accurate to
Oh,
say in
there he
that
goes.
particular interaction with Altoid and Matt, where I wanted to make a 10-second response, I probably unmuted or was muted maybe 40 times or something like that. It was really I noticed you put 30 some minutes. It's really
What?
condensed into a 2 minute, 2 to
No,
2 to
so I
3 4
started the
minute
timer when Matt started talking, as conversation with Altoid and whoever else was talking. That conversation lasted 31 total minutes. And of that 31 total minutes, you interrupted 50 times.
But you're not saying
Unbelievable.
it is in a period of about 2 or 3 minutes. I interrupted 50 times. That's probably the more
How is
accurate
that
statement,
even
Jade. And it had to do
possible?
with specific instance. You're making out it was spread. If you clocked it from when
Oh
Matt
my
spoke, I didn't speak at all except for on one particular
Yeah, we
instance.
muted you every time you interrupted. So yeah,
Are
you
you?
were
No, you're
muted
not
50
getting what I'm
times.
saying. You're not getting what
No,
I'm
he's
saying.
saying he interrupted 50 times in 2 minutes. Do you think that's any
not
better?
true.
That's
That's
amazing.
not true.
That's not even
I
possible.
mean, I
Well,
wrote
I
down the
will
tick
say that
marks.
John did keep saying he only needed 10, 12 seconds or something
So
like that.
what? You still don't interrupt people 50 times.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Please, colleagues.
And it wasn't
This
that I
doesn't
was
make any.
interrupting. They were hell bent on me not getting 10 seconds out. That's what it was about.
So you're
You
what I mean.
saying that no one
Would
let
y'all
you
say
speak
y'all
for
were
10
fearing what John
seconds?
Lee
It
had
was
to say?
a lot of it, especially in the beginning. Someone would ask Matt a direct question, like to Matt, and before Matt could answer, John would unmute and yell the answer. So he was
Wow,
really
John.
trying to get in there. So I counted all of those as interjections also.
Oh yeah. That might have happened, but like I said, that's just like what, 2 seconds? What, less than 2?
So
Yeah,
1
but you're
second
trying
maybe.
to direct the conversation to you when they were having a
Those kind
conversation
of
with
things I
Matt.
do, right? And maybe it's
Yeah,
not
that's what I'm
appropriate because
saying. Jesus Christ.
yeah, no,
That's what I'm
but here,
saying.
yeah, and in that particular instance, right, where I did let Matt respond. In fact, as I specifically recall,
No,
he
we
went about
muted
2
you.
minutes,
You
and
didn't
he
let
and
him
he
do
gave an
anything. We
answer, and
muted you.
wait a minute. What happened was, and then Matt spoke for about 2 minutes, and then I realized that Matt maybe didn't hear Altoid's question, and so actually Altoid said you didn't answer my question. That's when, if you really listen carefully, that's when I was trying to get in 10 seconds, and that's when all of that happened.
Yeah, it lasted 31 minutes. You interrupted that entire
But
time. It was
isn't
not
my
just the 2 minutes
characterization
that you're claiming.
isn't that my characterization correct?
No, you interrupted the entire time.
Yeah, I would highly disagree with that.
Go watch the
In fact,
replay.
in fact, I was probably sitting there on stage, what, 2-3 hours before I even.
Nope. You want to know? That room started only 18 minutes before that conversation started. So you weren't there
Okay.
for hours.
Well, just
Yeah,
like
we
the
just
last
started the
room,
room.
just like the last room you had, I was even in the audience for hours. I mean, I do this all the time. Just because I'm on stage doesn't mean I talk as well.
No,
Yeah,
the
but
problem
you
is
just
that
claimed you were there for hours when the room had only started. Actually, it was 23 minutes. So the conversation started at 23 minutes. So you couldn't have been on stage for hours just sitting there doing nothing, right?
Did
And
I
in
say
those
anything for the first 23 minutes?
Hey,
yes, you did.
Oh my
Yes.
God. Jane, is there a replay of this 31-minute?
Yeah.
In any case, I'm
I'd like
glad
to
you're so
check it
concerned
out.
about every little aspect. Great.
It's not. It's no.
It's on my
It's just
profile.
calling you out. Which one? Hang on. Let me see.
I'll look.
Vehicle profile. There's so many rooms. Was it Agape Love
I think
should
it's
be
a little
launched in?
obsessive, if you ask me, but that's just me.
Yeah, you're interrupting again. Should the Agape Love be launched into the sun? Is it that one?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna. And approximately, was it towards the beginning or?
Oh yeah.
Well,
So
Haiti, go ahead and watch from the beginning because I put a lot of valuable information out from the opening.
I mean,
so
look.
the conversation with Altoid started around 23 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it later. I mean, John, you really gotta like.
Yeah, I mean, you check it out,
this.
Haiti. You check it out how the mods got completely psycho when I tried to
Maybe that's because you
answer him for 10
interrupted
seconds.
50 times. Maybe that's why they got
No,
psycho.
that's a mischaracterization. You
no,
guys
you're
muted me
mischaracterizing right
approximately
now,
that many
John.
times.
I thought that was a fact.
Maybe tomorrow we'll play it and we'll have a little shaming session of your
That
chronic
would be a good
interruptions.
idea.
Yeah,
Even non-mods
good
were
review.
pissed at you, John. Everybody was pissed that John kept interrupting Matt because he does it all the time, and it's fucking. And then he complains about dogpiling.
Even Matt was upset about it.
Again?
I don't
Yeah,
know that
Matt
I was upset.
told
I wasn't
you
really upset
to
You
stop.
asked him to stop.
No, I actually.
That's a good question, Matt. Do you recall me continually interrupting your conversation with you and Altoid?
No, what you were wanting to do were you were wanting to answer the question Altoid asked me. I answered the question.
That's correct.
I think you wanted to, and you said all I need is 10 seconds. I was not really upset about it, but I know.
Did you notice how long it took that they couldn't even give me 10 seconds?
Yeah,
Because they were
why do you think
they were
I
so
don't understand.
bent on it. They were so hell bent on it that every time I unmuted, they got super duper triggered every time I unmuted because they were so motivated.
Yeah, because the question wasn't to Matt. They wanted Matt to respond.
They wanted Matt to answer, not you.
He was given about 2 minutes.
So what?
Yeah, I think I actually did.
And as soon as you were done, Matt, as soon as you were done, Altoid was not satisfied with your answer.
If I ask him the question,
well, he just didn't answer the question. I mean, the question was like, what do you mean by reliable information? Matt gave particular instances. He still didn't give a definition. Then you interrupted and wanted to like spout some gibberish.
I thought it was a sufficient
Spout
information.
some gibberish.
Something
How do you even
question
know
about
what I was
sufficient.
going to do? I was going to give you a very succinct answer.
You always spout gibberish,
But
and it's never
can't you
succinct.
see how egregious this is? Someone's having a conversation with Matt. Why are you jumping in?
I guarantee you,
guys,
99
why are
out
you
of
interrupting me?
100 instances in a different room, it
Because
would not
it's
turn out that
pathological,
way.
Haiti.
Because the mods wouldn't be psycho
Pathological.
like you guys are.
He's just an entitled fucking boomer, dude. That's all he is.
Really entitled to be like, I have to speak. Someone's trying to talk to Matt. They don't want you to answer the question. If they did, they would have asked you.
And the ruse was that no, we want a one-on-one.
Yeah.
But if you look very carefully at the way you conduct your rooms, you do
my
not
fucking
want a
God.
one-on-one. You do not.
There's a difference
Every single
between.
time,
Okay.
you do not want. I could point it out. I could just.
Look,
I'll tell you what.
okay,
Every time I notice it.
I'm just gonna mute you. There's a difference between saying
And
like
do you see how you're muting me right now?
Yeah, I am, because you won't
Wow.
shut up. I'm
You want
muting
to
you
be
because you won't shut up. There is a difference between like a loose hallway conversation, let's say, and someone saying, Matt, please answer this question. That means they want Matt to answer the question.
He was given the opportunity.
So what?
And I didn't interrupt the full time, Matt.
So then there was
he tried
like,
more than once, actually.
No, you
the
did.
conversation.
Look,
The
You did
You
conversation
interrupted
was.
the entire time.
Did Altoid say when if Matt
Oh,
can't?
now you're muting me
Yeah,
again.
I am, because you won't shut up.
I'm glad you admit it. This is
Yeah,
how
because
triggered
you
you.
won't shut up.
You
You
won't
won't
shut
stop
up.
talking.
Hey,
Did
John, what do you think
Altoid
the point?
say if Matt can't answer the question, does anyone else want
And
to
this
answer
is
the
the
question?
abuse of minds.
There we go
And you
again.
want to blame
Shut
me?
up.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
interrupted me again. You interrupted me. I'm going to mute you every time you interrupt me. I'm fairly confident Altoid at no point said,
Yeah, but you're
well,
muting me when I'm
you're
not
interrupting me.
you.
You're interrupting me again. I muted you.
You're
You
actually
interrupted.
interrupting me.
No,
to...
how am I interrupting you? I was literally talking.
Unbelievable.
You kept interrupting me. So once again, I don't think Altoid said, well, Matt's not answering the question, so does anyone else want to answer it? I'm pretty... Alto, did you say that?
No, absolutely not.
No, so you just
Actually, he did, Haiti.
Interrupted me again. You're just so
No, he
entitled.
didn't.
Yeah, John. I mean,
He
if
threw
somebody's
the
having a
question up into
conversation
the
with
air.
Matt,
Watch it.
Interrupting Banner.
He threw the
John,
question
if
up
somebody
into
wants to have
the
a
air.
conversation with Matt, they obviously want to understand his views. You chipping in is just what all it's doing is just not allowing people to understand specifically Matt's view on it. They're not wanting to hear your view or your take on it. They want to hear Matt's view on it. So you chipping in is just going to, stop people understanding what Matt thinks.
I mean, what's the goal? What's your goal when you interrupt like that, John?
Well, my goal is to provide information that a person's inquiring, because he asked Matt, right? And so it was going back and forth for a while.
Right, but if we're seeking information from...
And Altoid, see, now you got...
No, so if we're seeking
and then now you're
information from...
muting me, and
Yep,
then
because
and then
you're not answering the
pretending
question.
now that I'm over talking
No.
you, right?
Now let's hear what
I'm
John's
not
got to
saying that
say,
you're over
because I want to
talking.
hear
You're
the
not
same
answering the
point.
question.
While I'm talking.
So if your goal is to provide information that we're seeking,
now
if
it
we're
looks like I'm
asking
interrupting
Matt,
you. That's what it goes.
No, I didn't say you're interrupting me at all. I asked what was your goal, and you said your goal is to provide information that we're seeking from the question. But if we're asking
Not
Matt,
a we, Altoid.
Okay, so if Altoid is seeking information from Matt, why would your goal then be to give him that information?
The tape. Watch the tape. What it was
I did.
He was interacting with Matt, and then he was not getting an answer. It was going back for approximately 5 minutes. The very last time, it was 2 full minutes that Matt answered. Altoid was still not satisfied, and he threw the question up in the air, and that's when you got triggered.
No, that's not what happened.
He didn't.
I mean, he didn't
let
answer
me
the
just
question.
let me just say one
Altoid, did
thing
you
real
throw
quick.
the question in the air?
Could I please?
I think
It'll
at a
take
different
me
time
10
I asked a
seconds.
question like, does somebody want to take this up? But I think that was to like Sella.
No,
During me and Matt's
that was
conversation.
not it. That was not it either.
I don't
Also, you did
recall
offer
doing
it
that.
up as for someone to take your place, and that's when Young started talking. But I don't think you ever offered up the question, right? You said if someone else wants to take this up, that's fine.
It's
in
like
a way
if
that
somebody
you
else
wanted
wants to
someone
speak.
to argue from your side.
No, that wasn't even it either.
That's right.
Who
That's
watched the tape, John? Did you rewatch the tape this morning? Did you?
No, I did not. I'm just going by my record.
Could I just clarify for the record one thing that was said earlier? I think Jane had said that I wanted John Lee to stop. As one who values the moderators in rooms and want to share the utmost respect, Tom had asked me to talk to John about the interruptions. I told John, I think I said something to the effect of, John, I beg of you, allow me to finish. Then I'm getting ready to check out anyway, and then said something about I'll unleash the full John Lee on you guys, or something of that nature. So that
Yeah,
was
I
why
remember that,
I
Matt.
yeah.
What's telling
Yeah.
about
Well, the
that is
issue,
that if
Matt, was that I was not
no, what's
interested in hijacking the room. I wasn't even interested in being
then
in a
wh-
conversation.
Hmm.
I just
Oh,
wanted to give a 10
you're
second
so
answer.
full
That's
of
it.
fucking shit, John.
If
And I
you
was
noticed, Matt, after you
then
left, I had no
you,
interest in
John,
being in the room.
questions. At that point, we started asking you direct questions, and you disengaged because now you couldn't step all over Matt. You had no interest in talking with us at all at that point.
No, that's not correct either.
It
That's
is.
your
Again, who
that's a
watched
lie
the
right
video
there.
or who
No,
watched the thing? I did.
you're pretending that by the circumstance that I tried to answer Altoid's question, and then Matt left, and then I didn't speak up for a long time. In
We
fact, I said,
asked you direct
now you're
questions,
interrupting
and
me
you said,
again.
"I'm not gonna.
You're
I
the
don't
one
have any
continuing.
interest."
Look how you're just
wow,
completely over talking me,
unbelievable.
right? So in other words, he tried to turn it over to me. He left. I did not want it. I wasn't interested. I actually said I'd rather hear John speak, and then you guys were all over him, dogpiling him as usual, one on one. I could have chimed in and said, yeah, one on one, my ass, right? But this is the common theme, whether you guys understand it or not. You have no self introspection to realize you guys have double standards and pretending I'm one on one, but you
Projecting.
don't want a one on one.
Projecting. That's a lot of projection, John.
Well, John Geary took over, and so John, I will say, John remained patiently quiet while John Geary had almost as
Let me
lengthy
tell you.
conversation as I did.
Well,
Yeah,
you
let me
And
tell
then
you what
right
happens
now,
all the
John.
time, Matt.
Just
Every
interrupted
time that
Matt.
happens,
Interrupted Matt.
wow,
yeah, every time that happens,
He
they get rid of
disrespects
a
you
theist.
every day, Matt.
You know what
Every
happens,
day.
Matt? See how they're over talking me? And so what
You
usually happens, Matt,
interrupted
is I'm on
Matt.
stage just all by my lonesome, right?
As Matt astutely pointed
They
out,
actually start to
as
see I'm
Matt
being
astutely
muted.
pointed out, he didn't have any problem not interrupting John Geary, right? So clearly he respects John Geary more than he respects you, Matt.
I had no desire to
I
answer
never
a
thought of it
10-second
that way,
question
Jay.
in the
You're
midst of John
interrupting
Geary.
Matt now.
That's what
Jay
it
just
really
asked Matt a
is.
question. You're talking. Shut the fuck up. Go ahead, Matt.
You don't even realize how many times I've been muted while I was talking here.
The John Lee scholar Jane, kind of made an interesting point there. I didn't think about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I
what
don't think
usually happens,
I'm going to have
Matt.
to ponder this.
Yeah,
Matt, I
so
don't
what
think your
usually
arguments are
happens,
good, and I
Matt,
don't think you're very smart, Matt. But listen, John does step all over you all the fucking time. All the time.
Yeah.
So what
I
usually
mean, like,
happens,
what else
Matt, is
could explain this other than John Lee just doesn't think
see
you're
how
very
everyone just
smart,
wants to give
right?
chips
Like,
at
he white
Exactly.
knight, he white knights
Well,
for
he
you all the
doesn't
time.
respect you at all.
No,
So
yeah, he
anyway.
doesn't respect you. He doesn't think that you're capable of answering questions. He thinks that you'll humiliate yourself.
Thinks
That's
you're
why
a
he
white
steps
belt.
in.
Matt, what usually happens is, so I'm in the stage.
I mean, what
sometimes,
other reason?
And after they go through after theist after theist after theist, they literally go, "Oh, look, there's John," and they get into this frenzy that they don't even realize.
Why are
Right?
you
They're
talking?
looking
This
for
has
more
nothing to
blood
do
or
with what
whatever
we're
they're
talking
looking
about at
for,
all.
and they try to engage me when I have zero interest in conversation. And sometimes I'm in the audience and they want to bring me up. Oh, look, they literally scan for
Why are
another
you talking
theist
about this?
that they want to engage
What does this
with.
have to do with the
Yeah, I
fact
don't
that
get the relevance.
you interrupt Matt consistently, but you have no problem staying quiet around other theists, like John Geary?
Yeah, that's a false characterization, because if you notice a while back when Tom Rabbit, Jack Anstrike, and JMIKE were going after Matt for about an hour and a half. I remember I was doing some moving, and I was listening. Right, you guys had no problem people dogpiling Matt, and then as soon as I spoke up, I'm not quite certain. I think you might have sent me to the audience or whatever. After being silent for like whatever, it is just the case that when you guys have a particular theist, that doesn't have to be Matt, and you guys are just enjoying some sort of gangbang or something, right? And then if some other theist, not just me, I'm talking about any theist, okay? When they interrupt, you guys get so like indignant and you guys don't even realize this kind of behavior.
So you're saying you do interrupt John Geary on a regular basis? We just don't notice it? That's your argument?
Of course, I wouldn't interrupt anybody.
Oh, great.
Oh,
Well,
okay, quote it.
there could
John,
be an
John Lee will
equally
interrupt
plausible
anyone.
theory. There could be an equally plausible theory here, based on the evidence. It could be that John Lee, because me and him have such a close connection, that he feels the need to come help me when
Actually,
he's
there's
okay
something
with
to that,
John
Matt.
Interrupted
Geary
him again. Interrupted him
getting
again.
Yeah, there's
ready for
something to
ends,
that.
you know.
Like
Interrupted him
John
again.
finishes your sentences for you, you finish each other's sentences, like that
Yeah,
sort of relationship.
except
Yeah,
it
so
just
it's
goes
kind of
one
like
way.
a close bond, and me and John just think so much alike. He wants to be a part of it, but with John Geary, that just doesn't exist. So he's okay with John Geary
See that,
going on
Matt?
his own.
Like when you were talking and I
So
piggyback with one phrase, did you see how like they
yeah,
Interrupted
kind of like
him.
the
That's not
Step
what that
Brothers.
is.
You
Interrupted him.
just
Yeah.
interrupted him.
Yeah, you haven't
But
let Matt finish
it's
the
like the
thought.
Step Brothers movie where they started finishing each other's sentences. You know,
No,
and
except that
remember,
Matt doesn't do that to John, so that doesn't really make
Yeah,
much
See
that's
the
sense.
very
the
charitable.
difference is
Oh,
Matt. I'll
Matt, you
show you.
should
Like
do that to John.
when I'm talking, I'm saying
John
Yeah,
doesn't
Matt,
do that to
start
Matt
interrupting.
either.
no. I don't try
John's
to
not
drown
trying to
out what they're
finish
saying,
Matt's
Matt. That's the
sentences.
difference.
He's trying to say something completely different. That's
Yeah, we know.
John's words.
No,
So
it's
it's
actually
I
I was
think
actually
on
agreeing
behalf of
with
Matt.
Matt.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's the difference. I usually my phrases are very short. When I
No,
do
they're
interrupt,
Lol.
right, wrong, or otherwise, I do interrupt, but only to say like 3-4 words, and then
Lol.
you
No.
guys get triggered. but the thing, no,
Bullshit.
seriously.
Bullshit.
But the thing is this, okay? I'm not trying to overtalk somebody. If you guys ever carefully watch where I'm talking, right, 5-6 words in, somebody's trying to drown out what I'm saying. There's a big difference in trying to a short jab into someone by interrupting them or whatever, and just literally trying to overtalk them to the point where they're making a speech just to drown out an individual.
So like
You
what
would
you just
drone
said right
on
now, John,
forever.
you just repeated what you said 2 different ways. You could have cut that down in half. I can't believe you don't understand
Now you're
how
sniveling
much.
about a different thing.
Interrupting
No,
You're
because
just
you
sniveling that I repeated
literally
something.
just said that you say things very succinctly and are very
Five,
that you don't take very long to say anything at all.
Then you missed
But
the
you
five or
point of
just
what I'm
said
6
saying.
words? 5 or 6 words?
you said the same thing 2 different ways
The
for no
list of
reason.
complaints are amazing.
It's just funny
Also,
that
you're
you think
gaslighting us.
you ever say anything in 5 or 6 words is hilarious.
No,
Try
I
it.
mean
Try it right
when
now.
someone's talking.
Try it right now.
No, I do interrupt, right? But when I do interrupt, I kind of throw that in there, and then let them proceed. Just watch any replay. I do
I
that.
just
5 or
did.
I don't
6
try
words,
to
huh?
in the middle of their speech. I don't try to just cut them off and then go on this long
Yeah,
rambling
you
speech.
do.
I just don't
You
do
do.
that.
You do
I
that.
challenge you guys to watch.
I just
5
did.
or 6. Yeah, that's funny. This whole conversation is because Jane not only watched, but she like wrote down every time you interrupted, and you're like, "Watch the tape. Watch the tape." She did watch it.
Right,
Yeah,
from the guy that didn't watch it
yeah.
himself. Right.
I recommend you guys watch it.
I recommend you do.
5 or 6 words.
Yeah, I might do that. Just from my recollection, as Matt was talking to Altoid, I remember exactly what I was upset about and what
Well,
was going on.
based on
And
track
they
record, your recollection
they were
is
triggered
reliable
at me
as
just
fuck
trying to
all. So
interject.
none of us are going to go by your
Yeah.
recollection on any of this.
And I was belligerent because it was more of an act of defiance rather than trying to do something different. I mean, I thought it was just ridiculous for some people to have so much energy trying to suppress just a very short conversation. Short.
Just out of curiosity, John, how many words do you think you just said right there?
I don't know, maybe 25.
Okay, so not 5 or 6. So you're at least not that delusional. Thank you.
I'm talking about
All
interjection.
he needed
My
was
goodness.
10 seconds. That was it last night. 10 seconds.
When have you ever heard him make a point in less than 10 seconds?
He just needed 10 seconds to get
I'm not
it
trying to
going.
make a point.
Then why are you interjecting if you're not trying to make a point?
It took him 10 seconds to say, I just need 10 seconds. That's it.
Because he's still so convinced. He's so
I mean,
convinced
the
that what
thing you
he
guys
has to
want
say is going to be
you
so
guys
much better than what's being said presently that he has to say it because then the outcome will be a win. That's what he thinks.
Yeah.
Right,
things
because
you
Matt's
guys
a
want
white
to
belt.
argue about is just silly. It's
Matt
childish.
doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, right, John? That's why you got to interject and help him out, because he doesn't know anything, right?
That's the narrative you guys want to purport.
But it seems pretty self-evident.
Yeah, like what's the other
Well, we have
explanation
two
here?
competing
It seems like
theories.
that you demonstrate that
I
in your
present
actions
another
and your
theory.
words a lot.
But Matt did say something about, yeah, I do know Matt, and sometimes I want to get in there with
Tell him
Matt.
what to think.
That part's
Yeah.
true, Matt.
Me and John Lee, you know, we share the same birthday. We're practically like twins. He's just a little bit older. So it's like he came out first. But we share the same birthday, July 19th. We share a lot of the same thinking. So John
Not
just wants
really.
to get in and mix it up.
Actually, we do share a lot of the same thinking.
And he wants
Not
to get
really.
in and mix it up with me, and he's just eager to do that. And maybe that's the other opposing theory as to what Jane and Scorpion and them have proposed.
Yeah, we share the same thinking so much, Matt. How many
So
times have we been
that's all he
conversations on
means when he
Facebook?
says you're a white belt. He's not saying you're inferior to him in any way.
Well, that's the big problem.
Oh
That's
my
the
God.
big evidence against my theory is the
Often-
accidental white belt comments that John is
often
Matt,
making.
here's a question,
you-
Matt. Go ahead, Adi. Sorry.
Well, often when John chimes in, it's not to echo your argument or to help you with your argument. It's to come up with his like Calvinistic answer, which you were not giving. Right? So don't say you're both saying the same thing. The frustrating thing is we're talking to you about something. John chimes in, and it's not your view either. It's his view. So it's not just like tag teaming or finishing each other's sentences. You have two completely different views.
I would disagree with that, Haiti.
Oh,
I
really?
think that,
Does Matt hold to
I'll
free
give you an
will, John?
example if you let me.
No,
Without interrupt.
no,
you now you want to interrupt me.
Not really
I
interested.
just said one thing. I don't think so, and then you just literally interrupted me just to cause a series of rebuttals.
All right, do it in 5 or 6 words, John. Go ahead.
No, I don't make 5 or 6 rebuttals. 5 or 6
5
word
or 6
rebuttals.
words. Oh, I thought
I
you
interject
very.
with 5 or 6 words.
That's something
succinct.
everyone agrees with.
Thought you're very succinct.
But yeah, I'd like to finish off if you're gonna let me.
Well, no, because I was about to say, for example, Matt holds to libertarian free will and you don't. And quite often when we're talking about that kind of thing, Matt has a different idea of salvation to you, right? So you're not both coming from the same place. You're not just helping him with his arguments, or you're not even white knighting. You're just saying, give the ball to me, and then you're playing a different game.
Irrespective of what you think, Katie, Matt will be talking with somebody, and he answers in a certain way. Maybe he didn't hear the question right, maybe whatever. I
Oh my
will
God.
interject to say something that he would agree with, and but he didn't say it. It's not something he would say. I don't think like that. That's not the reason why I interject. It's to move the conversation forward with the position he might not have expressed, but he does hold because I know him.
I've never heard you steal my and Matt's position. It's always your position.
It sounds like you're accusing Matt of not understanding the question.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
That happens.
Wow. So
yeah.
You think he's too dumb to understand the question?
See?
Happens to me
That's
too.
why he has to
happens to
swoop in and save the day.
Yeah, speaking of those competing theories,
How
it
many
seems like
times do
there's
I
a
not
lot more
understand the
evidence for
question
one of
or
them.
hear it?
Yeah.
That's why you shouldn't be interjecting.
I mean,
Matt Adams, Matt Adams, do you have the same view of salvation that John? Can I hear from you about that?
Yes, we do.
Bullshit.
That's what I'm saying,
We
Matt.
both believe that you can
Matt,
only be saved by Jesus Christ.
Matt, you hold to election, do you?
Yes.
Via predetermination.
You do not.
Yes.
Now they want to debate it, Matt. What me
Matt,
and you already know.
Can you choose to be saved?
Now that's where we kind of disagree.
Yeah.
You have a choice.
Now that's where we kind of disagree.
Absolute audacity of saying you have the same view on salvation. Who do you think you're talking to? We all know both of your views.
It's like the most important part of salvation, whether or not you can do it yourself.
No, the most
Okay,
important part
that's
of
okay,
salvation,
Matt. I mean,
Jane, is
like, look,
believing in Christ
Matt,
as Lord.
Matt, that's fine. Look, we're gonna take one claw. That's it, right? We're gonna throw you back. That's fine. You'll you'll regrow it. That's just a tax, just a little tax. It's just gonna cost you one claw. That's it. We're not gonna take anything else.
So, I mean, you're asking about how we're saved. You know, Matt and I would agree on what it takes to be saved.
Matt Adams, you would agree that there are aspects of salvation that you don't agree with John on. Would that be correct?
We agree
The
on.
answer is yes.
Oh, were you answering for him, John?
Classic.
Sorry, I was breaking up.
Well,
The
he was
question
breaking up.
is.
I don't know if you guys knew that.
The
Oh,
question
oh,
is.
forgive me. It seems like all the other like previous 100 times where you like answered and he wasn't.
And then he could answer his perspective as well.
Oh, but now you've tainted things, haven't you, John?
How did I taint things anyway? I mean, from what I understand, he was breaking up. Alan may or may not have noticed. He asked the question to Matt. There was a long pause, and I interjected
So then,
with my
John, in that situation,
because
you
it's
just say,
about
"Hey,
Matt and I,
Matt
right?
was
So if
breaking
Matt
up.
has a different perspective,
Wait until he can come back and he'll answer." Right? You don't need to interject with your guess about what his answer might be. That's
No,
ridiculous.
I didn't guess. Wait a minute. I did not answer for Matt. I answered for myself and my perspective because the question was about Matt
We don't
and
fucking
He didn't
care.
ask you for your perspective.
Is your name Matt Adams,
Testing
John
1,
Lee?
2, 3. Testing 1,
You're
2,
good.
3. Okay. Yeah, the answer to Alan's question is both John Lee and I agree that no one can be saved apart from Jesus Christ. It's a requirement. There's nothing we can do to save ourselves. And I would even say even the Arminianist has to say that because even the very breath and the thoughts of everyone is dependent upon God. So in that regard, we all agree. In my position, though, as I'm not an Arminianist, but I don't specifically identify as a Calvinist, my view is that the person does have some sort of choice in the sense that they want Christ to come into their life. They want Christ to save them from their sins. They're acknowledging
You're a
their
synergist.
sinners. Maybe.
Yeah,
Right. He's a synergist. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree with exactly what he said, and I also agree with the choice, right? In a sense of
Oh my
that
God.
I chose you, right? And so, meaning Christ, and so but Matt believes that choice of the individual to be more synergistic, and I don't. It's not that much.
Great.
But everything else he said before
Tiny
that,
difference.
I sign off
Right.
on.
Tiny difference.
John, you don't believe in
So we're
choice.
practically the same.
No, you're practically not the same.
I mean, we've known each other for a long time.
Don't care.
I'm telling you, it's practically the same.
No, it really isn't. You're a monologist, he's a synergist. Pretty different.
So when John maybe just wants to jump in and kind of us double team the innocent atheist, and that's kind of why he's so eager to jump in.
The problem is you can't double team because you have different views.
I would disagree. No,
You just expressed a huge difference.
I don't consider that really much of a difference at all.
Really?
Yeah, because I could still say I have no reason to boast, because even though I wanted Christ, I recognize it was only because Christ revealed himself to me that I recognized my need for Christ. And without Christ doing that, I would have never recognized that. So I'm still 100% dependent upon Christ.
Yeah, you think Christ has revealed himself to everyone.
I
John,
wouldn't specifically say
John,
that.
I don't want to.
I think they're.
I don't want to appear to be disrespectful, but you seem to be more of a chameleon than a Calvinist.
Oh, wow.
Wow, Alan, wow. Shots fired.
What's a chameleon?
What's a...
Oh my God! It's like a lizard. It's a lizard, Matt, that changes
I thought you like reptiles,
colors.
Matt. Aren't reptiles your bag?
It's one
It
of them
blends
there
into its
lizards.
background.
Okay.
It changes depending on where it's sitting.
Well, I'm an expert in snakeology, not lizardology.
Got it. John, response? Now he's quiet.
Oh, you're entitled to your opinion on that, Alan. Nom, nom, nom. That's your
John, are you there?
prerogative.
Come in, buddy. I need you.
No, you don't. You're your own person.
John, come back.
You really don't need him.
Tom, do
Matt,
you want
what's
to go
your
back to the
opinion?
theories?
John, I hope I didn't hurt your feelings. It's just something that occurred to me just in describing that it just seems that you change your position so often that well, that's what it appears to me.
Is that what it seems to you? Sorry, that's a joke from another room. We got into it about seemings.
But I just find the two theories on the table very interesting, right? We have the first one, which is that John
too.
Lee
I agree.
thinks, yeah, John Lee thinks that Matt Adams can't defend himself, and so he swoops in, gives his own theology, gives his own answers, what have you, to protect and to white knight Matt Adams. And the other theory so far, right? Like maybe we need to tweak it, maybe we need to add some stuff, right? But the theory so far is that they finish each other's sentences and that they share the same birthday. So
We have Jane, who I consider kind of the Bart Ehrman of John Lee. She has studied John Lee thoroughly. She studied what he has said.